Hopefully this one won't be too bad. Hopefully won't be too bad. On page 309, it says we're going to be talking about this today. Percent. Which, if I tell you that you got a 98% on the test, is that good? How do you know that's good? 98 out of 100. So the word percent means out of 100, right? That's what percent means. It means out of 100. And you just got that quiz back, right? And it was out of 20%. Sorry. No, it was not out of 20%. It was out of 20 points. So let's say you got this on the top of your paper. 17 out of 20. I didn't put a percent on there. I didn't put percent. So if you wanted to know what percent you got, if you got a 17 out of 20, how would you figure that out? Well, you'd have to go back to the old, what does the fraction line mean? Divided by. So really, this means 17 divided by 20. What is 17 divided by 20? If you do it on your calculator, anyone? I think you get 0.85. Yes? 0.85? What percent is that? Is it 0.85? What percent is that? 85%. Remember, you have to move the decimal over 2 places. So that's pretty much what we're going to do today. We're going to go from fractions to decimals, percents to decimals to fractions. That's what we're going to do today. That's the whole lesson. So the first part there asks you to write these as a decimal. It asks you to write them as a decimal. 29% and 2.6% and 637%. It asks you to write those as a decimal. Well, what do we do? How do you change a percent to a decimal? If I want to go from here to here, we assume the decimal is here. You have to move it 2 to the left. Well, that should be easy, right? That should be easy, right? We move the decimal 2 to the left to change it to it. We assume it's here, move it over. What do you get? Yes? 0.29? What do you get? Uh-oh. I can't move it over 2. What do you do if you can't move it over 2, Donahue? I can't move my decimal over 2. There's nothing there. Then what do I do? Put a 0. You put a 0 there. So there's going to be a 0 to 6. If you have to move it over and there's nothing there, you need to put zeros. What about this one? We assume it's here. If you move it over 2, that's going to be 6.37. Right? So that should be easy, changing a decimal changing a percent to a decimal. It also should be easy to take this and change it to a percent. Decimal to percent, you just move it back the other way. Decimal to percent, 0.27, 0.05, 0.627. Change those to percents. Oops. You move it to the other way, right? So what is this? 27%. What is this? Do I need to write the 0? Just plain old 5%. What is this? 62.7%. A little sloppy, sorry, it's Monday. Does that make sense? For those changing decimal to percent and percent to decimal, you just write them, you just move the decimal over. Either 2 to the left or 2 places right. The next thing they ask you to do is change a fraction. Change a fraction to a percent. Change a fraction. Well, we sort of just did that over here. How did we change the fraction to a percent? What does this line mean? Divide. So over here, how do you change 3/5 to a, on your calculator, do 3 divided by 5. What is it? What is it? 0.6, he says. Anybody else get 0.6? But that's not a percent. That's a decimal. How do you change that? Well, we just did decimal to percent. 2 places to the right. And what do you do if you don't have enough spaces? Or I mean enough numbers? Add a 0. So what would 0.6 be as a percent? Everybody agree? 60%? We just figured out, how about this one? This is a good one. 1/3. If you do that on your calculator, you know what you get? 0.33333333333. You get the idea, it goes on forever, right? What would that be? How many percent? Well, I would take one of two things. Depending on what the directions say, if the directions say to the nearest percent, you just move it over 2 places. What would that be? 33%, right? Or 33.3 repeating percent, depending on what the directions say to round to. Yes? Does that make sense? You've done this before, I think. How about this one? Not what I want to do. How about this? Change right here. Change 4.7 to a percent. I wanted to do one of those. Change 4.7. Move it 2 places to the right. What happens if you move this 2 places to the right? Anybody with questions so far? I think you've done this before, right? Have you done this before? How about this? 15% of 180. How about these? 15% of 180 is what number? I think there's a way that you can do it. Is it of over is equals percent over 100? Did you do that? Does that ring a bell to anyone? If you did that and you like to do that, you can keep doing that. But the way that I like to do these, in math, the word, oh, I'm not going to use red because that doesn't show up very well. In math, the word of means do you know what the word of means? Times or multiply. And the word is, do you know what the word is means in math? Yes, it means equals. So the first thing we're going to do is write ourselves a little equation. 15%. What does of mean? Times 180. What does is mean? How about W for what number? I bet you could solve that on your calculator. Instead of 15%, we're going to change that to a decimal by moving it over to 0.15 times 180. How do you solve that? If you want to know what W equals, how do you solve that? You just have to multiply. 180 times 0.15. What is 180 times 0.15? 27. So what number is 27? That's not that bad, right? That's not that bad, right? What does of mean? Times, well, at least one person knows. What does is mean? Let's try a couple more just for fun. Just for fun. Just for fun. How about this? 23 is 25% of what number? 23 is 25% of 23. What does is mean? What does it mean? What does it mean? 25%. What does of mean? Times what number? So that's what I would do first on my paper. Then you need to change this to a decimal. 0.25. If you move it over, now what? How do you solve that? How do you solve that? How do you solve that? Did you say divide by? If this is times 0.25, then we're going to divide by 0.25. What number equals? Is it 92? Could someone help me? I'm trying to do it in my head. Is it 92? Oh, wait. I can do it in my head. It is 92. It is 92. Make sense? I'm going to do one more and then you're on your own. What percent of 64? What percent of 64? What does of mean? What does is mean? And I should at least see this on your paper, right? You don't need to copy the problem, but I should at least see this, not just an answer. How do you solve this for W? If this is times 64, how do you get W by itself? Divide by 64. 48 divided by 64. I think it's 75. 0.75. Am I done? What do they ask you to find? If they ask you for what percent, you're not quite done yet. Is this a percent? That's a decimal. How do you change a decimal to a percent? You have to move it 2 places to the right. If you have a decimal and they ask for what percent, you're not quite done yet. What percent is that? You have to move it over 2. That would be 75%. Does that make sense? Good? Yeah. Are we good? That's all I have to say. Is that enough? Yeah. So I'm on page 312. I think I'll take it easy today. I changed my mind. I'm on page 312. We're going to go 1 to 31. I'm on page 312. We're going to go WE 1 to 31 odds. And when will this be due, ladies and gents? Tomorrow. Everybody will be here with it ready to correct tomorrow. Everyone will be ready with it to correct tomorrow.